This public hearing on an ordinance creating a defined contribution plan for the town of Ledyard. We will have the procedure. The first item on the agenda is the procedure for the public hearing. What we will do is we will have the call of the public hearing read. That's a legal notice. Then we will have a presentation of the proposed ordinance by Marcia Hancock, our finance director. And then we will take public comment. And public comment is the opportunity for the public to provide input on the proposed ordinance. And that will end the public hearing. At a meeting to follow this public hearing, the town council will have a regular meeting, at which point they will take up whether or not to pass the proposed ordinance. So with that, I will ask Roxanne for the call of the public hearing.
The Ledyard Town Council will conduct a public hearing at 6:45 p.m. on Wednesday, December 28, 2011, in the Council Chambers, Town Hall Annex, 741 Colonel Ledyard Highway, Ledyard, Connecticut, to receive comment on the proposed ordinance creating a defined contribution plan for the town of Ledyard. At this hearing, interested persons may appear and be heard, and written communications will be accepted. Copies of the draft ordinance are available in the town clerk's office during regular business hours, dated at Ledyard, Connecticut, this 15th day of December 2011. For the Ledyard Town Council, Sean Sullivan, Chairman, published in the New London Day on December 19, 2011.
Thank you, Roxanne. And now, Marcia, will you present the proposed ordinance, please?
Yes, good evening. You have before you the ordinance. There was one small change in section 5 from what you originally got in your packet online. And that one change is that the trustees will be the Director of Finance and the Administrator of Human Resources. It previously was the Director of Finance and the Mayor. We thought the Administrator of Human Resources would bring in the Board of Ed involvement. And that also mirrors the trustees for the defined benefit plan. Basically, the ordinance establishes the defined contribution plan. We also have an adoption agreement that needs to be approved, but right now you're just looking at the ordinance, and this has gone through the pension attorney. He did draft this, and the intent is to keep it as brief as possible, with most of the detail residing in the plan document itself. That way, anytime there needs to be a change, you don't have to redo the ordinance. So things such as the town match and eligibility detail and things like that are in the plan ordinance, are in the plan document. The ordinance attempts to be brief. There may be some revisiting of it in the future that you may decide is needed. So it is a 401A plan. The 401A plan under the IRS regulations only allows for employer contributions and rollover contributions from previous employment, and the rollover is only allowed for people who are actually participating in the plan. Excuse me, I have another document. You may have, I wanted to clarify in section 4, participants shall not be permitted to make employee contributions from their pay to the defined contribution plan. That simply means that only employer contributions can go into the 401A plan. The employee contributions go into the 457B plan, which is the deferred compensation plan, also mentioned in that same ordinance. So, defined contribution plan can take employer contributions and any rollovers that come from a previous plan. And the effective date is January 1st, 2011, and the reason for that is that's Section 3. We have an employee right now who has been contributing to the 457B plan because he became eligible for the defined contribution plan in January of this year, and the town match needs to be made by the end of this year, so that's why you're doing this special meeting. Thank you very much. Section 4, employee eligibility, refers to the fact that only employees who were hired after July 2009, whose participation has been approved by the town council, or any future collective bargaining agreements will be participating in the plan. It's a 5-year vesting plan, which mirrors the defined defined benefit plan, and this is Section 5, or I'm sorry, Section 6. And then 6B states that any rollover contributions made into this plan are fully vested upon that contribution. And then Section 7 refers to the trustees. So it's a fairly brief ordinance. The plan document is not brief. That's where all the detail is, and we can go over that. I don't know if you want to do it. I guess that's after the public hearing at the 7 o'clock meeting.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's necessary to go over that here. Certainly, if any members of the public who are here want to ask questions, we will try to answer them.
Okay. I'll take any questions you have.
Thank you. Just by way of further background for the public, what we are talking about here is an ordinance creating a defined contribution plan for purposes of employee pension. We have one employee who's a management person who's going to go into this right away. We hope to have others, either whether they're new hires in management or perhaps through collective bargaining. Some of the collective bargaining unit members, whether they be existing or new hires, would go into this. That would be a function of the bargaining. What we're attempting to do is get away from having a defined benefit plan. A defined benefit plan is where the employee retires with a guaranteed number, dollar number of what they're going to receive for their pension. And then based on investments, we may have to increase our annual contributions to that plan. What we are trying to do is get away from that into this is called a defined contribution plan, where the employee puts in so much, there's a match from us. It's like a 401k, and then how they get out an amount that depends on how the investments actually do. So it's a safer road for us, and that is what we are looking to convert to. So with that as background and an explanation of the actual ordinance, we'll now open this up for public comment. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on the proposed ordinance? Including members sitting up here who, for purposes of this, are members of the public. Yes.
Is this going to become a subject of negotiations if a bargaining unit now has a defined benefit plan and you are encouraging them to go to a defined contribution?
I think particular bargaining unit negotiations will be determined as we work with, and the mayor works with the Human Resources Director. So, I mean, I don't think we could sit here tonight and make a blanket statement one way or the other about what's going to happen in future negotiations. I do think we are creating this with the purpose of having something to go to, if in fact it becomes possible through negotiation to go to it.
Okay.
if I could just add to that, as Marcia indicated, this is just the document that creates a plan or plans. As you may know, in our town, we have, for instance, in some of the benefits, such as medical, there may be several different plans. By keeping the details, as was said, in a separate document. So now we can go to the bargaining units and say, here is our here is the plan, and obviously the details of the plan would become a matter of negotiation.
Are there any other public comments? Going once, going twice. Hearing none, I will move to adjourn the public hearing, and we'll take a short recess, and then we will commence the regular meeting of the town council at 7 o'clock.
Shane, are you ready?